Hi everyone, my name is Sydney and welcome to my DSARI home energy audit. For a little overview, I'm going to give a little background of where I live, a little audit process of my measurements and logs, quantifications with calculations in my data, and then my findings of my energy usage and what I could do in the future. Little background is I live in a dorm on campus, which is about a 200 square foot room with me and my roommate. It was hard to find a true value for energy usage for a single room, so I found the energy usage for the entire building, and with some math, I was able to give an estimate of about 300 kilowatt hours per month for the average 200 square foot dorm room in my building. Some more background. Top consumers of energy include air conditioning, space heating, and water heating, with other consumers being lighting and refrigerators. This graph on the right, I think, is pretty interesting as it gives a little visual of how much heating and cooling is used in the US, along with pretty much everything else, and I think it's a pretty 50-50 split, so it's interesting to look at. And lastly is, for background, is some literature values for my measured appliances. Again, string lights and refrigerator, as expected, pretty high consumers of energy, but the hairdryer was also up there, which was pretty interesting for me to see. For the audit process, these are the devices I recorded: my air purifier, lights, charger, diffuser, fan, lamp, hairdryer, and fridge. How me and my roommate logged use is most of these were personal devices, so I just logged time on and time off in my spreadsheet pretty easily. Some of these were always on devices, so it was just default 24 hours a day. And for the room string lights, me and my roommate, we have a pretty bad habit of just not turning the lights off, so it was whenever I turn the lights on in the morning and then whenever we turn them off to go to bed at night. This is my entire time log with UC string lights, pretty high, about 10-hour average. My chargers I use at night when I'm sleeping, so those are the highest values. But for hairdryer is a little different because I don't keep my hairdryer plugged in all the time. So it's pretty much I recorded when my hairdryer was physically on and then when my hairdryer was just plugged in. My constant power devices were my string lights and desk light, along with my fan, hairdryer, and diffuser, due to always having the same watt output. And for variable power devices was my air purifier, refrigerator, phone charger, and laptop charger, as watt output depends on the cycle that each device is in, whether cooling or charging cycle. For low quantification example calculations, for constant power of the fan, it was 26.4 watts on and 0.8 watts off. So I multiplied each of these values by 24 and 0 hours per day, respectively. Since my fan was on 24 hours a day, it amounted to 633.6 watt hours per day on, and then 0 watt hours per day off, which was a total of 633.6 watt hours per day. For my variable power, I did my fridge, which was a measured kilowatt value over an extended period of time. So it ended up being 0.868 kilowatts over 31.33 hours. I divided these values, kilowatts divided by hours, which got me 0.0277 kilowatts, which multiplying by 24 gets you 0.6648 kilowatt hours per day. Lastly, string lights, very similar to the constant power of the fan, 81.6 watts on, and is on for 10.6 hours a day. Multiply these values together and you get 866.1 watt hours a day. And all of these calculations also show how you get to kilowatt hours per day and kilowatt hours per month. This is my full audit results. You see string lights, fan, and fridge were all pretty high consumers, which is comparable with literature values, not far from what we expected. And for graph, for ease, we see that total usage of appliances was 76 kilowatt hours per month, with the highest users being string lights, fridge, and fan, with 34, 26, and 25% of electricity respectively. And the rest of the appliances was about 15% of electricity. For my findings, what I noticed is that string lights took up a lot more electricity than I expected. The fan and the fridge, despite being such different devices, had very similar kilowatt hour per month values, and despite being the highest wattage, my hairdryer didn't use that much kilowatt hour per month. In comparison to the total dorm space, 76 kilowatt hour per month is only about 15% of the total estimated value. This is because my audit doesn't take into account heating and cooling, and also the dining hall facilities that are downstairs, as well as all my roommates' appliances, which will also add to the kilowatt hour per month value. In comparison to the literature values for appliances, majority very similar. One big difference is the string lights, which is because likely we keep them on for so long. Another is the mini fridge, which I think is because our fridge is a very big mini fridge. And lastly, the hairdryer had a lower energy usage. I think this is because I don't use my hairdryer that much during the week, only about 2 to 3 times a week. For future actions, one way I could reduce my electricity use is to reduce my fan use to only 9 hours a day when I'm sleeping. And this would save 11.52 kilowatt hours a month, or 15% reduction in electricity use, which is pretty huge considering that it's only one device being reduced. These are my references, and thank you for listening.